Adi, ciao.
Ciao.
And I would say that thank you for coming. And with Adi, you will discover how hybrid approach can be um, a little bit more easy to manage and not and they are not the hybrid approaches entropy generator, but something that can be truly helpful for us. So thank you, Adi, for coming, and the stage is yours.
Thank you for having me, and let's get started. So we'll be telling story of hybrid approach to project management and how we make the best of two worlds. Why this is happening these days is we are living in this ever-changing world, and basically change doesn't stop. And in this time, organizations looking all the time for new innovation, for more efficiency, and even more adaptability. And balancing this all the time with stability, more resilience, and never-ending predictability. That said, I will introduce quickly myself. So my passion is project management, but what I learned in my experience and career is that community matters. So I used to work in quite big company of 60,000 employees that were spread all over the world, and it was a world by itself. And I lived in community in isolation of all other communities. And once it happened that I had to leave that community, I learned that there were no replacing community. So I think that this world of communities goes very well with what Virginie was saying just before, where you can actually establish collaborative networks, then create partnerships, and at the end have mutual benefits of sharing and learning. And I would say that in all these kind of events, we always can learn so much. Even if we presenting something, we still learn from participants. And what I really like about these kind of events is really exchanging and sharing the vision and opinions that matter in our community. That said, coming back to the organization, so we see some increase in the use of hybrid. Well, we can call it project management, but in very much agile communities, they will call it hybrid agile. So let's just call it hybrid. And it would be obviously a combination of what we could call traditional and then agile practices, and then trying to kind of mitigate all these weaknesses and use the best of it to make our actually project happens. That said, there are different definitions and uses. So yeah, I just took some organizations, associations in project management that are well known and how they actually approach the hybrid. So PMIs has the whole agile user guide that actually complete PM book, and in the latest release of PM book, it was simply just attached to it, while also these agile practices are going to make much more of it in the upcoming PM book 8. So again, the emphasizes on adaptability, then iteration and collaboration. IPMI with 4th-generation project management is always focusing on value-driven project management, but again, there is incorporation of agile elements that actually allow for adaptive planning and continuous improvement. Agile Alliance, which is more on agile side, but still collaborated with PMI on this agile practice guide, is also providing guidelines on integrating agile and traditional approaches, and also telling us how to tailor those approaches to specific project needs. But Prince 2 is also the specific framework that actually then bringing some of agile principles into that framework to manage project in so-called hybrid environment. So, as I said, I like to hear what you think, and I will invite you now to connect to Menti. I will also change the page. So if you can just go to menti.com and use this code or use this QR code to connect. In the meantime, I will have to switch the screen and just confirm this is working correctly. So you have QR code and you have code also published on the screen. So
Yes,
may
I
I
do.
ask?
Everything
Yeah,
is working.
I'll give you a minute or two to manage connection to Menti. We will have another question, Menti, so it's worth we must take a little bit of time. I will remove this QR code. It looks like yeah, there are still some words coming in, but I think we can already see how the statistics will be shaping in favor of hybrid. So this is another demonstration that hybrid actually matters in our world of managing the projects. That said, I will suggest that then we go to the next poll. So could you note what would be the three agile practices you use the most? Again, this coming from perspective of what we would call traditional project management, where actually I'm asking you what would be the three agile practices, not three project management practices, but in maybe next year we will be more talking about project management practices. So may I ask you to vote again? So you can select, you can put down three practices that you use the most. Could be even methodologies if it's easier for you. So I would say that clearly, since we are living in this digital world where there is always something digital to work on, makes very much sense to use Scrum because again, it relates so much to any kind of software development. And I would say that other practices like daily stand-ups or iterations, sprints, adaptation, Kanban, product backlog or backlog here, they're all actually good practices to use in hybrid project management because all of them can be really easily integrated into what I would call traditional way of delivering projects, where we would plan in advance, define everything in very much detail, and then execute and basically monitor and control what's going to happen. While in this hybrid project management world, we would be more involved. Actually, we have more active role where we really need to be actively leading in making our project success. Okay, I will stop it now. Thank you. So let's move back to our presentation. So this was Singapore. We've seen the results. And then now the question is, how would you approach actually project management? So you clearly have some experience because we've seen just before that many of you are already using hybrid project management. And this goes in line as well with the fact that hybrid project management has been around for quite a long time, even since actually Agile came in, because the first notions of hybridization or actually integrating some of Agile elements project management was already in 2002. So how much hybrid you would need, it would really be the question you need to ask yourself, how much the current methodology or the way you do project is really matching your needs. So like all organizations have their ongoing projects, there is plenty of work, resource management is going on, and there is all question of prioritization, and then also how you really meet the strategic objectives that are coming in organization or from senior management. So very simple way of doing it, it has to be flexible. Why it has to be flexible? Because you need to think of all these different functions that might come into your project. It's not applicable, obviously, to all projects, because if you are purely doing software development, then there will be much involvement, much less involvement of, let's call it a little bit more strict functions like procurement or legal or risk management functions. But again, if you have a project that is touching all aspects of the organization where you need to go through all these validation forms, then you have to have this flexibility to include or exclude specific functions based on needs. That said, you will typically be working on something that we would call fit for purpose, because your project, even if you have well-established methodology, doesn't mean that you need to use all the specific techniques and tools that are defined in that methodology. Again, you need to have this liberty where you decide how much of that you want to take, because sometimes there are projects that are kind of following the same way of doing things, but again, it doesn't mean that you always need to have to say for risk management assessment or going through full procurement process for something that is really not costing that much. And of course, at the end, it has to be quite adaptive because, again, we know projects, conditions, requirements, they change as we go, and they are changing faster and faster. So there is really no way of saying now, this is it, and I will just keep using it. No, actually, it's going to change again and again. And as we said this morning, with the AI, everything is changing now so fast that something we say today, it's not going to be valid anymore in maybe 3 months or even less. This means that we constantly need to adapt to ever-changing conditions. So this is just an example. So don't take it as a recipe, because I don't believe in recipes. I don't believe in frameworks. I really fully believe in flexibility and adaptability of what we do. So again, it's just an idea how you can approach the hybrid project management, creation of course methodology or approach or technique or whatever. But again, we know that you need to have some strategical planning in doing it, because again, at the end, we all need to deliver result. There is an outcome coming out of the project, and this outcome can be not money making, but again, it can be quite important for organization or even for survival organization. It means you need to have some business case, and then based on that business case, you will definitely need to have some kind of project plan to set a vision and then define some initial milestones. Then you can start thinking, how you will initial planning start adapting as you go, because again, typically you will not be spending anymore so much time in planning or detailing or really collecting these requirements, because you know by now that actually just by doing it and experimenting and finding solutions to the problems or to strategy that you need to follow. Actually, you will do much better by going through different, through multiple steps, and actually sometimes even repeating them just to make things be better. But again, we are not forgetting that our stakeholders, or maybe in some situations, customers, and then they may also bring some changes and to the project conditions. And then we need to tailor practices because, again, whatever tools and techniques we use, then each project may bring something new. And again, we know technology is changing, AI is changing, and then again, how you may use AI, again, it's will depend very much on organization. So if AI, again, implementation by itself is not typically being done by project management organization, it's typically done by information technology organization, and then they will decide what are the priorities, and then project management will become priority in implementing AI. It's a big question, because some organization might be open to AI implementation, while some others might be very much closed, because with AI there is always risk that this confidential data will be slipping out, and this is not the risk you want to take. So again, there will be obviously the progress, and there will be technology, and with each quarter that is coming our way, these conditions may change. So we need to keep tailoring, and then obviously with that we will keep improving. But again, to keep improving, there is nothing better than actually this what I call collective intelligence, because it is proven fact that 10 people that are not specialists will very often come with a better solution than one single specialist, because by the fact that you bring all these different perspectives into different solutions, you actually bring more ideas and more possibilities. And just by the pure statistics of number of possibilities from different perspectives, you actually take in consideration more options. That said, the solution may look something like this. You may have something that is phase-based with iterative execution. So typically, again, in organizations, based on business case, we invest money in specific solution, then we may be deploying by the project or actually doing project to develop a new solution. And there is a need to control how money is spent. And then typically you will have some gates or control points to check how this money is being spent, where the time is going, how the resources are used. So all these elements still require some of those so-called phasing in our projects. Then we might have some milestones. But these milestones can be sometimes very much fixed, because if you are working to a specific target that in time, specific deadline that you cannot change, then you will be changing everything else, but not the time. But if you are working on something that actually requires that your customer will at the end tell you, this is what I want, or through development or through project delivery, they will keep telling you, this is not what I want. Obviously, you will not be paying so much attention to your time as much to your customer. And then as long as customer is not happy, times really doesn't matter. Again, doesn't mean that you will go in infinite game with your customer, because at the end you need to deliver and get your revenue. But again, it's again something that you want to keep flexible in terms of the objective or principal objective of the project you have. So again, do you need documentation? Agile word, it's never really answer question, but again, there is documentation sometimes that has to be there, because there are many projects that are in regulated industries, and there is always possibility of audit. And anyway, there are a lot of companies that have the internal audit, so there is documentation has to be. And then again, this is how we then start by creating this documentation. But then we need to keep it in a way flexible, because you want to be able to adapt through your project because you do not want to be fixed by a document or say the very first document in your project is project charter. Do you want to be really limited by project charter? Of course not. So can project charter change? Of course can. So this is the idea of this flexibility where you can even go back to very beginning and change the conditions. Because if that helps you to deliver what you are delivering, then you just need to do. And then again, there is always this customer collaboration. So you have to keep this partnership, collaboration, relationship open and always having in mind this infinite game, as Virginie was saying. So where this is long term because you win today, but then if you win in long term, then you win for next 10 years. And again, what matters here is really having this very active and mutual benefiting collaboration. So these are some sayings. So again, by blending various practices, so we know now that organizations can have greater efficiency, adaptability, and if you like, innovate and have better increased level of customer satisfaction. There are some elements that we need to think of when we think about hybrid project management. So one of the elements is, or let's say the most important element in my personal view would be people. So why people matter is because they are the key elements of the projects and whether it's people leading projects or people participating as team members or people being stakeholders. I think one of the elements that help improve and really come to this level where we really understand this combination of different elements coming from agile and traditional way of doing things could be mentoring. So really, again, not mentoring in sense where someone is coaching another person, although you can also use coaching as another way of really closing the gap in maybe some lack of knowledge or experience. But mentoring is really in sense of exchanging and sharing because I would say I have some decent experience in project management, but even these days when I work with the younger generations of project managers, I always keep learning. They always bring some new perspective. So I learn with them, they learn from me, I learn from them, and again, we both really benefit out of it. Then mental health, I would say it's really now we are talking much more about it, but it was kind of no subject 10 years ago or 15 years ago when we know that there is always risk of doing too much and burning ourselves into the work. And why it was happening because there was this pressure of succeeding, although nowadays I think this kind of really decreased and there is much more attention given to it, although there are still, I mean, in most of the organization, there are certain expectations how you need to perform and what you need to deliver to keep that job. So again, it is some kind of a balance that we all need to find and what we are ready to give to that place where we work and how we do that and what is the price that we ask and we pay as well in doing it. So again, finding that balance and finding this perspective where you really sit, where you fit, it's very important and it's not easy thing to do. So it is something I think also the organizations need to pay attention, but again, it's also ourselves because sometimes especially when we are younger, we ignore this fact, and it's very important thing to always keep in mind that the health is the most expensive attribute that we have. And then community. So I will come again to the communities. I think communities are a great way to learn, to exchange, to share. And to me, I'm always really eagerly participating in all kinds of discussions because, again, it's really opens the way to always to see how other people think, to hear other experiences, and really help you to keep going and improving. So let's see what organizations can do. So again, it's this supportive culture. So again, I can see a lot of words, and when you go to the website of organizations, they talk about this supportive culture. But again, it's not always what is written. Actually, it's how it's acted, and it's always that thing of leading by example. So I would say it really matters how the leaders in organization do it, because if HR is promoting supportive culture and it's call it on the paper culture of the company, it's not necessarily what happened on the ground, and especially in the bigger organization where you have all these cultural differences in different countries. It can be very different aspect of how supportive you can be. So this is very complex subject. It can take another 2 hours to talk about, but again, it's something to pay attention to and really maybe keep insisting in, because it at the end it's beneficial for us as a project managers, but also for organization, because this is helping to have better results in delivering projects. Another way is continuous learning. So I don't think I need to tell you how much is important that we all keep learning. I mean, the AI, and it's just another fact. 2 years ago, no one was really thinking about prompt engineering, but now it becomes like Microsoft Office. You know, it's if you do not know how to use Excel, well, basically, it's like you are not capable of doing any work. And the same thing with AI. So it's really just basic. I would say now it's basic tool that we use in business, and how literate we are in this in using this tool. It's really up to us to make it happen. So the training is all over the place, but this is no where it stops, because it's going further, and we just need to keep up with it. And then again, important aspect of each organization is so-called project management maturity. So as Vishnu was saying, there are maturity models that are developed in by different establishments, and again finding out where we are in terms of management maturity could be important, because by assessing it and looking into loopholes and finding maybe some possibilities to further improve, it can help us. And then keeping it and maintaining this maturity is very important, because we might come to a specific level of maturity, but again, we may forget that actually we need to keep investing in it to keep it where it is, because if we say, yes, we are happy now, and we forget about it, then it goes down again. So here we are in what I call 100% sharing. So it would be really nice to maybe see in the chat if you have some examples of hybrid project management, and even better, I don't know, usually if we can have some of participants maybe share in live their experience with hybrid. So maybe we give it like 5 to 10 minutes to really exchange on what's going on the market, and what other people think.
I would say that if someone of you wants to share their experience, they are more than welcome. There is a question for Adi, but I have also other questions for you. I would say that I will address the first one that we see in the chat. That we are asked from the classroom we have here in SUPSI. Can we say that factor people really drives how we tailor the hybrid methodologies? Either we move to a more predictive rather than agile project management. It depends almost uniquely on the engagement slash capabilities of the people, for example, the stakeholders.
Definitely yes, because there is this Pulse of Profession report that PMI made this year, and one of the topics was hybrid project management, but again, there was also the people aspect, and they demonstrated clearly the company that had this supportive culture of continuous education and focus on people perform much better in delivering projects than other organizations that are maybe less focused on people aspect or people factor, as you say. So definitely people factor is very important. And again, in my experience, why it's important because, well, I went through different places where there was this very strict matrix system where people didn't really were in liberty to express themselves. Coming to other places, there was a lot of liberty, and I could definitely say where you have liberty to really feel comfortable to say something, even if it's completely wrong, and not feeling actually badly about it, and not being perceived as someone who's actually doesn't know what is talking about. It's very important because again it's about perspectives, and even if perspective is wrong, if we got it wrong, and again it's important that we can say it and then someone listen to it and think about it and maybe then reconsider and say, yeah, but still it's wrong because of this and that. But by just proving that it's wrong, we exclude a perspective or option that might be sitting there. And if we do not feel like we can share, then it's not coming to the surface. And if it's not on the surface, it's not going to be considered.
Thank you, Adi. And I think that because of that, the question I was asking you, I will asking you in a minute, will can fit very well. Um, so because of your strict experience, I would ask you, in your experience with hybrid project management approaches, what has been the most, I would say, significant challenges in balancing traditional and agile methodology, for example, within maybe the same project? And because you also mentioned the mental health, maybe can you share a specific example on how you've overcome these type of challenges and how to manage these type of entropy, and if maybe we can look at some tools or maybe some ways to interact with the I mean what literacy can say to us.
Well, I would say two words. One is knowledge, and another one is no, or maybe yes and. So the first one is really when I was younger and I started working at global enterprise, and I somehow felt lost when we were going through different, because what I could read about project management, and specifically when I was doing my PMP certification, was not really fitting into reality, because there was so much change happening that actually I couldn't plan anything in advance, because we would start. I was specifically working in product launch in financial services, and we would start working on a product, and product manager would say, "This is all well defined. Clients want it, and we are going to do it this way." And then we start project, and then by the time we already learned that we had to involve at least some early adopters very early into product development, and that's what we were doing. And then we would start learning very quickly that actually what product manager thought it was actually the best what we to deliver wasn't really. And we had to adjust it. And then when you play with the players like Barclays Bank, which is a really huge bank worldwide, and there is no way of going around it, because when they say we want this, then you do that. And again, it was very important that collaboration with customers, but again, it was not really fitting into frameworks where you had to really kind of define when you will be using some of the resources to bring that project of product sale definition, because there are all these kind of processes that come to it. How you actually sell the product, how the product is purchased, how that's all managed behind into backend systems. And you have to plan all these changes, basically change management happening in advance. But you had your customer saying, no, I don't want it. And suddenly everything is shifted a month. And then all your planning was, off. and then you come with your project, and then suddenly, sorry, we were waiting for you a month ago. Now we are working on another project, and there was really big cultural change that has to happen for it that we could then move to a different way of doing things. But again, that was one of the biggest problems for me, and what I learned was really to then plan things differently, actually not plan, but then not really specifically defining the timelines and always explaining that we couldn't know what customer would want and that we needed to keep it open, and somehow it worked. It was not always the perfect way, but again, it was the way. And then by bringing more agility and everything, then we ended up at the end by actually having teams really following up on the projects and then understanding when they will be needed to be involved in the project. But that's the ideal scenario, when you know your project is as important that everyone is waiting for it, even if you are coming late because you have very big customer telling that you need to do some changing. Again, everyone is waiting for you. So it's very nice scenario. And
Yeah.
then coming to mental health, I think learning to say no, or maybe sometimes, I mean, not really saying no, but what you can always do is say yes. And there are things that we need to consider if we want to do things this way, and there would be some condition that we need because strategically maybe this is not the best thing we are doing. Again, finding way to go around the things that you see are not going to happen, because it happened to me that I have to take a project and I was saying to my manager, but this is not going to work because no one is going to support it. It's just not simply not enough. But she was telling me, yeah, but you know that this manager wants this and it's important for us. And well, at the end, the project didn't happen. We were working on it for 3 months, and it stopped because no one was supporting it. So again, there are this kind of troubling situation that can be stressful. You can just imagine scenario: you have fantastic sponsor on your project, and then sponsor just leaves the company. What do you do with your projects? So.
That's true. And that's amazing because in the meantime, I receive a comment, a direct comment that says, even in the most regulated environment, like the case of Moderna while developing the COVID vaccine, they were able to adopt a more agile methodology. In this way was possible thanks to the engagement of people that realize that predictive methodology couldn't work for the timeline required. And because of that, there's also in Antonio Nieto Rodriguez described the case in his handbooks of the project management. I think that it's mentioned in on the PMI platform. So there's a lot that we can share and discuss. So from the classroom, thanks for sharing the experience. So again, people are at the center of everything. Let me ask you maybe a last question, just to 5 minutes, in the 5 minutes that remains. One of the criticism of hybrid approaches is that they can lead to confusion in governance and reporting structures. And because of that, I mean, we know it's not so easy for, and also depend of the maturity level and how we can foster a culture of project management that if we do not manage the hybrid approaches in a good way, I mean, it's very difficult to let agile communicate well with the predictive one. So how do you address this issue, particularly when dealing with the stakeholders who are accustomed to their purely traditional waterfall method or purely agile method. Um, are these specific tools, technique that could be helpful, and maybe share it with us very briefly, like just as a final thought or a final comment.
I don't believe that is really matter button because I would
Thank
say
you.
that
No, but sorry if I interrupt you, Adi, but thanks, because it's actually it's really like that. So thank you to be absolutely sincere and transparent on that. Thanks.
what I wanted to say, we really need to act because this all hybrid project management, or call it modern project or new era project management or adaptive or whatever name you use, it's still project management.
Yeah.
And at beginning, you have something that is becoming something you want to do in specific whatever period of time, specific budget, specific this, specific that. So these are the conditions that are given to you by situation, and then are you managing it or are you leading it? And that's where the question is. So if you live in an environment where you are just given this task to make it happen and manage it in a way that is allowed in a specific place or organization, then it's what you will do. And
Mm.
you may feel happy with it or uncomfortable or may not. And myself, I was never happy. And then I was always proposing changes. And somehow I think I was always going to what I call leading instead of managing, because, and I think it is the evolution of project management where we become really project leaders, meaning that we really need to think about the environment, and we really need to understand the organization where we are. And even if you do not have this specific industry experience, you might come as a consultant or contractor to the company, and you may not be familiar with the specific industry. Doesn't mean that you can say, okay, I do not know it. It's not like this, because again, we can lead by talking to all these specific people and finding even more people that can help us to understand how that works. And if we take again an example of Moderna, so it's regulatory, and in financial industry, there are also regulations and more in medical and pharma, but again, there are again specific rules and they are written, and then we need to spend some time to understand all this system to actually live in that system. So this is again what we can do. And then if we see in that system that there are things that are not working, then we can consider some changes. And maybe I have something to share with others in regards to, so let me show. So again, there is something, and here you might think this is not well formatted, but it was intentionally done that to look ugly, because I believe that this true business agility comes from freedom, not frameworks. And this is why I put it this way. So it looks like it's not framed very well, but this is how things are done. And I'm here not to promote PMI or the ways of doing things, but again, my personal view that one of the best things that ever happened to PMI was really acquiring discipline agile. And what PMI is giving to everyone for free, so you do not need to be PMI member to use it, is this discipline agile browser. So I will again just skip to another screen to share with you the real things. So if you go to the browser and take the most recent version, so I have 2 minutes, so we will go very quickly through it. So you have different ideas that are just given to you, because understanding how this work, it takes some time. You need really to go through it and understand how would discipline agile. But if nothing else, if you go here and then you will get some new ideas, how to, for example, explore scope. So what you can think about, or if you plan the release, how you would plan the release. If you think about ensure production readiness, so it's another. So grow team members. So we're talking about people. So here are so many ideas how you can improve the teams around you. So again, evolve way of working. So we say how you deal with situations where you have traditional way of thinking. So this is again some ideas you can bring and up to discussions and provide. So look at it; it's a whole list of things. So and this for free. So feel free to use it because it's out there, and I think personally it's one of the best things how you can really do hybrid project management. So going back to presentations, so I have a few more slides. So here are just some sayings, and there were some sources of really what I brought here in this presentation, so you can take it as it is. So we will not spend time on it. This is also a very nice saying, I think, that can conclude this presentation. So again, there is no one size fits all, and then we know that every project has different needs. So if you want to connect, this is how you can find me. Then when you receive the slides, you will have this link to the webinar we are organizing on the 3rd of December, and it brings some new way of assessing this, what we talk about project management maturity. So this is really assessment tool that can help evolution. So it's really assessing project management maturity. And this was a slide meant for questions, but we went through it. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you so much, Adi, for your time. It was amazing. So I will ask you if you want to join also for the round table at the end, because the amount of question that we got in the meantime are huge. So maybe there will be more to discover at the end of the round table and address directly to the speakers the different questions. So thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you.
And